Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of AutoCentral, South Africa's #1 motoring podcast. My name is George Mienie, and as usual, I'm joined by Wandile Sishi.
In the house again for another week.
How's it, Wendy?
Not too bad. I had a really good weekend. My girlfriend just moved in, and she's reorganized my fridge. So I saved like 2 minutes this morning looking for my milk. So, you know.
I don't know how to respond to that.
It's just something that I've been thinking about since this morning.
Rearranging your fridge.
Well, just the fact that there's better ways to, put your fridge or put your milk in your fridge.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'll believe you. I'm like, to be honest with you, I've never thought about it, but milk in my fridge is in the door. And,
there's other places where your milk can go.
Where was your milk before?
For another episode. Let's get into the cards.
I'm assuming you had to move other stuff to get to your milk.
I used to, yeah, basically.
Okay, all right. Well, I suppose, you got to you got to be able to get to the stuff you need. Anyway, in today's episode, we're experiencing an automotive fad at the moment in the form of EVs, or should we say growth in EV stocks. And the question is it sustainable? These highly valued EV companies, is it sustainable? I mean, Tesla's highly valued. There are other EV companies that are highly valued, and we'll get into the detail of that. Definitely. And then later in the episode, we review these two beautiful cars that we have in the studio behind us.
The twins.
The Porsche Taycan. And I am so excited when we picked these cars up today. It was such a treat, a treat. So Porsche Taycan, full electric, goes like a bat out of hell. We thank Porsche South Africa for these two cars, and we're gonna give them some proper justice and due attention for the rest of this week. And then lastly, as usual, we have 3 burning questions from our Ask. What's wrong with me? From our Ask AutoTrader platform. So, Wendy, where can listeners find the show?
So if you want to catch the show live, we're streaming every single Monday on cliffcentral.com at 9 a.m. But if you want to see our faces, you can also find us on the AutoTrader SA YouTube channel. And if you're watching that, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and also comment. And last but not least, if you want to just listen to the show at your convenience, you can also find us on any streaming service such as Spotify, iTunes Music, whatever is kind of convenient to your listening pleasure.
Okay, cool. Well, there you go. Smash the like button, subscribe, and you'll get this awesome content every single week. So we're coining this episode the EV Debunking episode.
Yep.
Is the growth in EV stocks and companies sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, I have my thoughts. Definitely. But I think I'll get into that a bit later.
Okay, well, in today's world, investors take the role of venture capitalists, and they look for the next big thing. You get angel investors, you get private equity, venture capitalists often invest in startup companies, and these companies are overvalued oftentimes, and they're young companies years before they could even be a big thing and offer returns. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, I mean, it happened with the dot-com boom that happened in the early 90s, early 20s, well, early 2000s. So it's not the first time we're seeing this new technology that's coming onto the kind of the markets and into the world, where all these investors are just flying in and people are putting in their houses and kind of their retirement funds into these future potential companies, and then,
boom.
Yeah.
Well, it begs the question then, is this spectacular rise in EV stocks and valued, or companies being valued and increasing in value, sustainable? We are going to unpack it in this debunking episode. So briefly, your opinion, Wendy.
So
what do you think?
It's a funny story. So I've been kind of, for the last year and a half, dabbling in the investing space, specifically with stocks as well as crypto. And if you're doing that, whether you like it or not, Tesla is going to come up. And depending,
have you got Tesla shares?
I decided not to get Tesla shares. This is about a year ago, so I should have. But the reason I didn't is what we're going to be unpacking in this episode.
You thought it was overvalued?
I thought it was overvalued. It just keeps climbing, but where is that ceiling? And if I, put in 100,000 Rand, for instance, today, and it drops by 10 or 100 times less than what I put in, I would have lost all that money.
Yeah.
And Tesla's not the only one. There's dozens of these new companies which are overvalued in my opinion, including Tesla. But Tesla is kind of the one that's shining, and it doesn't seem to be stopping at any time.
Well, the only one really making cars, right? So let's set the stage. In the 2020s, a similar thing is happening to the dot-com boom that you just spoke about. And that's young electric vehicle and autonomous vehicle company stocks have been surging following the meteoric rise. I mean, meteoric, a very big word, but the massive rise of Tesla.
Yeah. I mean, what's your thoughts? I mean, you, a person who's been following the Tesla stock, do you think it's overvalued? Elon Musk even said he believes that the Tesla stock is overvalued.
So, I mean, probably for another episode, but I have a big view on the fact that Tesla is, yes, while a car company, is so much more than a car company. That's the lifestyle. Reason. That's the reason it is valued the way it is. It's because it's not purely a car company.
It's like Apple.
It's like, well, Apple has been a manufacturer of hardware for its lifetime.
Yeah.
But is that its future? Is the manufacture of hardware really where its revenue future lies? So, Chinese rivals like Neo Inc., who have fully electric versions and in the automotive industry in China. And the current unique bubble has been forming in a combination of a cash going into these special purpose vehicles or special purpose acquisition companies called SPACs.
Yeah.
Okay. Going to the public and investors looking for the next Tesla.
Everyone wants to be the next Tesla, but they forget that Tesla didn't just come onto the field.
When did Tesla start?
I think it was 2000, 2003?
2003 around. They started and they almost went bust, right?
They almost went bust a few times, right? And it's not necessarily the easiest thing to make an EV. They've been doing it for decades, literally. And now there's all these new companies coming onto the market, and everyone wants to get a piece of the pie, essentially.
Well, every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to put their cash into the next big thing,
including essentially me at one point, right? I'm not a special case. There's millions of people, lots of consumers who are putting their money into these companies, not just the stock per se, but these companies are coming out and saying that we have a car that's going to go 1.9. Do 100 in 1.9.
0 to 100 in 1.9 seconds, and it's going to have a certain battery life and a certain range.
Exactly.
But, have they really made a car yet? So what are the two cautionaries in this EV hype, would you say?
It's funny because there's two companies which we have spoken about quite extensively. And I remember when I raised, I think it was Lucid Motors to you first. And you laughed, and I was like, this is the next big thing, George, watch. This is the next Tesla. And you said, I don't know, it's kind of too good to be true. Right?
Well, I mean, you got to ask yourself, have these guys made a car? Have they produced a car?
They haven't.
Right?
And that's, you've been in business for a long time, so you know this tale.
No, and I still get it wrong, you know. But I think my sanity comes from the fact that why invest in something? And sometimes you can kind of invest and make it big, like Tesla.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in the beginning, Tesla was one of these.
Yeah,
it was a concept.
Or there's lots of examples of these sort of things.
So if you've got money that you think to yourself, well, I'm happy to lose this money, then invest in them. Because out of every 10 investments, maybe one's going to hit.
Yeah, and you don't have to go big, right?
Yes.
You can always start very small and see where it goes.
So let's talk about Nikola. Nikola Corp, which was one of the early EV makers and was swept up by one of these special purpose SPACs and attracted an army of investors who drove the prices sky high. However, Hindenburg Research published a detailed report. I'm sure you've heard about the Hindenburg Research.
I actually read it, yeah.
And calling Nikola Corp an intricate fraud.
I mean, that's a very harsh way of putting it.
But it was.
But that's exactly what happened. It was, I wouldn't say it was a fraud. I think it was marketing that went wrong in the sense that...
Nah, wasn't it a lie?
It was a lie. It was a lie, but it wasn't a complete lie. It wasn't like the vehicle couldn't do some of the things that they said they could do. It's just it was made to look a lot more glamorous
better than it was,
and a lot more shinier than it actually.
Well, to remind everybody, what they did was they staged a deceiving video of a truck running on hydrogen fuel cell technology when it actually was filmed slowly rolling down a hill, not running on its own power,
and then sped up.
Not
to say that I can't do that. It's just what it was doing or what it appeared to be doing was completely false.
Well, let's talk about another company, Lucid Motors.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Lucid Motors.
I mean, I like the car. It's beautiful.
It's stunning.
It's stunning.
It's stunning. But the same story with them. Basically, a bunch of SPACs decided to kind of invest in this company, bringing in a huge army once again. But then earlier this year, we found out that its valuation wasn't the same because essentially the Wall Street came and said that the valuation that they put on it wasn't the same as what the market said.
Okay, so these special purpose acquisition companies, they go and invest, and the shares surge to unreasonable levels. And I mean, Lucid Motors is, it's a genuine company. I don't think they've told any lies. It's just their stock price has soared, and then Wall Street, as you point out, came and valued the company far less than the public valued it in these SPACs.
Don't forget that Lucid Motors, the CEO actually designed, or he's the chief engineer of the Tesla Model S.
We're talking about Peter Rawlinson. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So there was, like you're saying, people aren't just necessarily investing in a product when they invest in an EV car or EV company. They invest in, what is the brand, who is associated with this. And it looked like it was going to be the next thing. I still do think that they're going to come up and
I think they still got a chance. I mean, have they started manufacturing cars yet? Well, let's find out. Have Lucid manufactured a car yet? And so in December 2019, Lucid broke ground with a factory in Arizona. Okay, so at least they have a manufacturing facility. And until December 1st, 2020, Lucid completed the factory construction and aims to ramp up 400,000 electric cars per year. All right, so that was in December last year. Have they made a car yet? Not entirely sure. All right, so they're a little bit further ahead than I suppose most. Maybe this is a potential rival. Yeah. Potential rival. And we have a South African startup called, what is their name again?
Mazibuko Motors.
We spoke about them a little while ago.
Yeah, we did. Been following them for a while. And one thing that's kind of stood out to me is basically they haven't done anything outside of the fact that they said they're going to be releasing an electric bakkie in South Africa.
Yes, I remember this conversation. So, is Mazibuko Motors going down the same road? Are they, I hope not. I hope that it's a South African company. I mean, Elon Musk is South African, and look how successful he was. So I hope Mazibuko Motors is the real deal.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, once again, for people, they're asking people to invest in this idea of theirs, right? And it's scary because we haven't seen anything, but everyone wants to hop in this wave and this bubble that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And one day,
I think it's in exactly what you said. It's an investment in an idea.
A concept.
An
unproven concept.
Well, it's proven in Tesla, but I mean, let's be honest. There's no profit. There's no revenue. Mm-hmm. And it's at the moment in many of these companies, it's pure speculation.
And I think Tesla's, its growth is only now. It's only happened in the last sort of 5 years. Yeah. Because Elon Musk became Elon Musk. People aren't going to just people are actually investing in these companies that don't have Elon Musk's proven recipes almost.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk is a phenomenon in terms of Tesla, and I mean, let's not be naive in the fact that it's flipping hard to build a car.
No, it's yes. To agree with you, it's super hard. It's not as easy as just an idea. There's lots of things that go into it, and building an EV car, there's safety requirements involved are so much higher than
you're sitting on a battery, which is like it's
a ticking time bomb. If it's treated incorrectly.
Exactly.
It's like a fridge.
Yeah. So all of these ideas with these other car companies are companies like VW, BMW, Mercedes, General Motors, Porsche.
I'm glad you bring them up because
are they going to just sit back and allow these startups to take second, third, fourth, and fifth place? Because Tesla's got number one place at the moment.
The VW CEO said that the next biggest company in the world is going to be an automotive company. He said this about a year ago.
And now
Tesla, right?
Exactly.
But what he didn't kind of allude to is the fact that it's not necessarily going to be a new automotive company. It could be a Porsche or a BMW or a Toyota. And I think I have it's a sneaking suspicion that I know you love Tesla, but I don't think they're going to be the kings of the hills forever.
Well, it remains to be seen. I mean, I think Elon Musk has the right attitude, and that is, his drive with Tesla is to accelerate the world to sustainability, to sustainable energy. If he's number one, I mean, obviously Tesla wants to be number one, but I don't think that's why they're doing it. They're not doing it to be number one.
I read a quote somewhere saying that Elon's biggest fear is that we're going to kill ourselves one day.
Yes.
I'm kind of paraphrasing here.
Yes.
And I think that's exactly what he's done. He's catalyzed the world to a point where we are getting to a point where we have 2 EVs inside the room. 2 EVs that people can buy.
Which Tesla started.
Yeah.
They started this revolution. And
$100%.
I mean, these 2 beautiful cars, driving this car this morning, I'm like, I fell in love with it. You know, Porsche, South Africa, I don't know if I'm going to give it back, but I'll probably have to. So there's definitely an EV bubble is what we're saying, right?
Definitely. There definitely is.
People are hopping on this bandwagon, and it's easy to just knock it down and say it's unsustainable and that there will be, certain major winners. I don't think the jury's out. Yeah. Or should I say, I think the jury's out on this. I don't think that we know the answer to this because, look at Google, Amazon, Tesla.
Same thing. We said the same thing, that there's going to be a bubble, and there was a bubble in the tech space. It burst, but there's always going to be the Teslas or the Amazons or the Googles who
or the Porsches
who stick around and show us that it is sustainable.
Well, we're going to take a break in a second, and when we come back, we're going to have our expert journalist Sean Nurse, who is a Porsche nut.
He is.
I hope I can call him a Porsche nut. Yeah. But he is very much into his Porsches, and he gets to drive the coolest Porsches.
Yeah, he does.
And we've got him into the studio because he's going to be reviewing these Porsches that are standing behind us this week and bring you the lowdown on the 2021 Porsche Taycan. But before we get before we get Sean into the studio, I think this car has got some legs.
We'll see. I mean, the price for me is huge, but I did see that these 2 are actually not the ones I was thinking of. And you might be pleasantly surprised by how much they've priced these 2.
Let's see when we get back with Sean Nurse. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And we have our expert journalist, Sean Nurse, in the studio with us once again. Welcome, Sean. I think Sean's a very lucky human being.
Yeah, probably in the top 10.
In terms of what cars he gets to drive. Sean, you get to drive almost, and I would say probably not even almost, I mean, you can confirm this, every Porsche that comes onto our roads, right?
Yeah, I'm the privileged one within the team that gets to take on that enviable task. But yeah, I'm very privileged and very happy about it.
So we're very privileged to have you, and today we have these 2 beautiful 2021 Porsche Taycan. How do you say that? Is it Taycan?
Taycan.
Yeah.
Taycan. My first review on this car for the AutoTrader site, my headline was "Totally Taken."
Lovely. Totally taken. Love it. Okay, so 2021 Porsche Taycan, and we've got what is that? Gunmetal grey.
Yes,
gunmetal grey and a white one.
And a white one, yes.
Beautiful. And I see it has these wheels that are slightly closed. Why do they do that?
It's all for aerodynamics and efficiency. So obviously, being an electric car, this is designed from the ground up to be as efficient as.
So this is not a retrofit at all.
You can option them. These have got the 20-inch wheels.
No, but what I mean is retrofitted with electric. It's built electric from the ground up.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. This platform by Porsche was designed from the ground up to be an electric car.
Yeah.
That's sort of part of their 3-prong mobility approach.
Tell us about that.
So the brand initially started as purely a sports car company. Ironically, some of their earliest cars were actually electric cars over a century ago. And moving forward, they obviously produced the 911, which is arguably their most iconic model.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about Porsche, you think about 911, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in the sort of approaching 21st century, their profit margins were no longer sustainable. So they had to come up with something else. So products like the Cayenne, the Boxster, later the Cayman and the Panamera formed a second pillar within the brand to allow them to continue producing the 911 while still
being profitable,
while still making profit on things like a Cayenne and a Macan and things like that. And then the third tier.
Well, I suppose, that reminds me of another company that's gone down this road, and that's Tesla. In terms of the concept of producing a sports roadster,
Yeah.
and then going into the other segments. Now they're on the Model 3, which is a car for the masses. That's really where the profitability of the company comes from. And now they're going to circle back again to the roadster.
Yeah.
So Porsche's kind of gone down a very similar road.
Yeah. So, and the third prong is electric. So we'll see, obviously we've seen Taycan. You'll see Taycan Cross Turismo, which is an SUV version of this car, which is already priced on their website. So we'll be getting it in the next couple of months, I would imagine. And then there's going to be an all-electric Macan, next generation, which will be sold alongside the regular internal combustion engine Macan models.
So, talking about that third leg, and you and I spoke before the show about the biofuel drive, which only seems to be coming out of Porsche at the moment. Can you tell us about this biofuel strategy of theirs?
Yes, so I think Porsche understand that the brand is associated with flat six internal combustion engines to a large degree with their GT cars and the 911 range. And now they have committed to having 80% of their range electrified by 2030. But
Electrified.
Electrified.
It's not electric, full battery electric.
Yeah. So some form of electric power, whether that be mild hybrid, or just full electric. So that leaves a 20% buffer for them to produce cars like a GT3 or a GT2, something with an internal combustion engine. Now the problem.
So when you say electrified, you mean 80% of their cars will be full electric. No nice engine in it.
There will be, yeah. So
in the 80%.
Yeah, some of them, yeah.
Okay.
So they'll be pushing obviously to electrify things because there's obviously no internal combustion engine sold or to be sold in Europe by 2030. And with Porsche, they said, we can come up with a biofuel that will be as carbon neutral as an electric car. So they've invested, I think it's 25 billion euro into a biofuel plant in Chile that's going to be producing biofuel that you can run your internal combustion engine car on. So they obviously understand.
With flat CO2 emissions. So essentially, I still get my noise.
Yeah, you do.
But it's completely clean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it's sort of a petrol head with a conscience type of thing. That's what they're going for.
I love it. So, I mean, Sean, this biofuel concept, a lot of the European countries and other countries around the world have put a deadline down. No more internal combustion engine vehicles on the roads by 2030, 2035, 2040. It depends on which country you look at. But is this biofuel alternative going against that gauntlet?
I think
it's a good question.
Yeah, I think instead of going against the flow, Porsche trying to come up with a solution,
yes,
and to still have your cake and eat it in terms of internal combustion engines. Yeah. So they say this 25 billion euros they've invested in this plant in Chile will allow you to have emissions-free internal combustion engine power if they develop it properly, and that project will start in 2022. So we will see internal combustion powered cars in the next half a decade running on synthetic versions of petrol and diesel. That is hopefully going to eliminate the CO2 problem with our cars.
The implications of that on something like Formula One or racing, Porsche is very entrenched in the racing culture, would be insane.
Well, they've already got the e-hybrid, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have the Formula E sort of situation that's going on, but for someone who loves Formula One and the sound and the theater that is internal combustion engines, that would be a great way of, I guess, protecting the planet as well as giving racing fans what they want. It's not necessarily a quick fix, and I don't think it's going to be as simple as it's a fuel that just is cleaner. I think there's a lot more to it, and I still think that EVs are the ultimate answer to the problems that we're having. But I would be interested to see how that sort of rolls out.
Well, I suppose my question is less about whether it is the right thing to do, because obviously if you can have an emissions-free product,
you're
solving
all the problems.
You're solving the problem. But a lot of countries have put down the gauntlet in no internal combustion engine. So how difficult is it for Porsche on their own to change that? Yeah. I mean, let's look at the hydrogen situation around the world over the last decade. Toyota thought they were going to take the world by storm with hydrogen. But as you pointed out before, it's so expensive to run a car on hydrogen. It's the filling stations are not there. There's no network. You can't build a car and then build the network. You've got to do it
alone. If you're doing it alone,
yes,
it just doesn't make sense.
You've got to do what Tesla did, and that is build the network while you build the car. So fortunately for EVs, in my mind, is that the charging infrastructure and the charging networks have been built around the world.
Yeah. And regulations are not just in Europe, right? They're everywhere.
Yes.
That's a network that expands from just charging stations, but from basically plans that are being made by the OEMs as well as governments.
So how difficult then is it for a company like Porsche to do the right thing, have the power, have the theatrical noise, as you put it, and I mean, it sounds very, very like intriguing, and I love the idea. But how do you build that fuel distribution network? I suppose it's a question we can't really answer right now.
Yeah, I think they're still in the infancy stage of planning this, but I think we'll also see a similar case with as we saw with hydrogen, where it becomes quite expensive. But I think one benefit Porsche has is the clients who drive a GT product in general, they tend to be pretty wealthy, so they're not going to mind spending double what petrol is now to have a GT3. And again, it ties in with what Wandile said about motorsport. Stefano Domenicali, the head of Formula One, has said there will be an African Grand Prix in the next half a decade, which means it's probably coming to Kyalami, which is very exciting. And at the same time, Porsche has a natural tie to motorsport, and the fact that in 5 to 6 years' time there will be predominantly biofuels used in Formula One, we may see Porsche come back to Formula One, and then have
this could be kind of
this could be the motor racing of the future, is this biofuel, and Porsche is going to lead it if that's the case. So let's spend the last couple of minutes, Sean, talking about this 2021 Porsche Taycan. And so give us your kind of initial thoughts. What is different about this car? What do you like? What don't you like? On your initial kind of review, because you reviewed the Turbo last year, right?
Yes, I had a Turbo S for the day. Absolutely blew my mind. Could not believe how fast that car was. You feel like a bit of a passenger for the first 50 meters or so in the launch control, but it's a completely different experience driving the standard Taycan. It's kind of, because this is only rear-wheel drive, it's got one electric motor, it's got far less power and torque. I mean, we've got the Performance Battery Plus version here in both cars, and even with overboost, we only have 350 kilowatts. I say only
350 kilowatts.
Yeah, and that Turbo S is...
When I put my foot down in this car this morning, it didn't feel like only 350 kilowatts.
I say only, but like a Turbo S is over 500 kilowatts. It's got over 1,000 Newton meters of torque on the overboost. So it's a very different animal to this. But I think the nice thing about this one is it's far more attainable. It's half the price of a Turbo S. You still get really good range. They claim between 400 and 500 kilometers, depending on what sort of
how you drive,
what sort of cycle you use, what kind of driving modes you use.
Well, you said you drove on the way here, and the range actually extended because you drove it in range. What did you call it? Range
mode. Yes,
range mode.
So that's the perfect mode to use in the city, because you can't exceed 100 kilometers an hour in that mode, or else it will kick itself back into normal mode or whatever you had in before. So range mode, I think I had 420 kilometers when I hopped in the car at Porsche. I put it in range mode, and when I got here, I had 471 kilometers.
You had more range.
I had more range
because it's doing regenerative braking, all of the things that make these cars as smart as they are.
Yeah, it like I said earlier, it's just such a different experience to the Turbo S, but at the same time you get this eerily quiet ride, the same very high quality interior. It's just a very nice place to be, and I think at this price point you'll probably get a few more people opting for it, because that Turbo S at over 4.5 million rand is a lot of money.
So what is this going for?
This is 2.22 million without options. So the ones we looking at here are probably closer to 2.4 million with options. So it really is in a bit of a league of its own price-wise, and there aren't too many competitors in the sort of sporty EV segment locally. There's no Tesla here yet.
Yes.
So when something like the Cross Turismo comes, then I suppose you could compare it to the cheaper I-Pace from Jaguar. But at this stage, it's kind of difficult to compare it to things because what is its natural rival?
Well, in South Africa, it doesn't have a natural rival. I think I've driven all the EVs. If I haven't, I'm sure the team will tell me. But I think I've driven all the EVs, and this car is. I mean, I've only now driven it probably for about 30 minutes, and it is unreal. The build quality of this Porsche Taycan is just, I mean, Porsche just builds quality cars. It's a Porsche. It's a Porsche. I've always been in love with the Porsche 911, but it's just been expensive. But the build quality and the ride quality of these cars is just unreal.
Porsche. Sorry, it's Porsche, not Porsche.
Well, it depends if you want to talk with a potato in your mouth, you can.
But yeah, no, like I was saying, it's a Porsche. A Porsche is not just an internal combustion engine. That's not what makes it the experience that people are buying into.
But that's what I think people miss is, yes, it's the flat four, and that's that noise of that flat four. But Porsche there's just so much more to this car than just the engine. It's the build quality, the ride quality, the finishes inside, just, how you fit into the car.
Yeah, well, Porsche is famous for making what was essentially a flawed design principle one of the best driving cars in the world. If you put an engine over the rear axle, make it rear-wheel drive, and it tends to make the car quite difficult to drive. So the fact that they have engineered their way around it means that if they take on something like an electric car, you can bet it's going to be fun to drive, which this one is.
Turns out it is.
All right, so finally, Sean, your score out of 10 for the Porsche Taycan.
I'm going to give this one an 8, a solid 8.
Okay. All right, and I'm not so sure we can really compare this car to the other scores we've had. I mean, is there an electric vehicle on the list that we can compare to?
Yeah, I mean, there's the e-Golf, which coincidentally also got an 8. So
I'm not so sure that the e-Golf is an 8 compared to this. I drove that e-Golf, and I wouldn't score it down. I'd probably score this one up. It's retrofitted, and you can't blame VW. For that, the ID3 and ID4, I'm pretty sure is going to be good build quality. So 8 out of 10 is what the Porsche Taycan gets, and I'm pretty sure that Sean, you gave it an 8 because you've driven the Turbo.
Yeah, the Turbo S for me, that was the Wow 9 car. Having driven this one, obviously it takes away a bit of the experience from the initial Taycan Turbo S, so that's why I've marked it down.
Okay, and then if you want to read the Porsche reviews on autotrader.co.za, go to the news and review section, and you can go and search for Sean's reviews on most of the Porsches that he's done for us, from the 911 GT2 to the Porsche Taycan Turbo, and then soon to be the Porsche Taycan that is standing in the room with us. So thank you very much, Sean, always a pleasure to learn a little bit more about Porsche. And when we come back, we will be in our Ask AutoTrader segment, where we will try and answer 3 burning questions. See you in a sec. All right, well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and that was Sean Nurse, our expert journalist's initial views on the 2021 Porsche Taycan, and obviously he's going to have a chance now to experience these cars more extensively for a couple of days, and then look out for his review on the Taycan on autotrader.co.za. Go to the news and review section and go and read all about it, and I'm very excited because it seems to be every couple of weeks we've got a new EV.
Special. Yeah, it does.
Or a hybrid.
Or a hybrid, or something that's kind of more futuristic and more different.
So you must see the dash of this car one day.
Yeah, I mean, I sat inside and I was like, wow.
When you switch it on, it's like it's you know what? And the one thing I can say about this Porsche versus the Tesla,
because the e-Golf.
I've been in the e-Golf, not quite. E-Golf feels like a traditional ICE vehicle. About this car versus the Tesla, because I've been inside the Tesla, I've been to the Fremont factory. Is the Tesla looks like there's a tablet that has just been stuck on the dash, right?
Definitely,
It's my only negative about the interior of that car, not this Porsche.
Yeah, it looks like it's been designed specifically for the screen.
The clocks in front of you fit into the dash, and they curve into the dash. It's almost like a well-made,
bespoke machine,
designed machine.
It's a Porsche.
It's a Porsche.
Porsche.
Exactly. So, all right. So, and let's get into our Ask AutoTrader segment. Every day, people send AutoTrader some motoring-related questions, all things car buying and selling. So, Wandile and I are now going to try to attempt to answer 3 of these burning questions. First question, Wandile.
First question comes from August, who's asking, should I be worried if the manufacturer does not have the car service history on their system? And what does that mean?
Well, August, if there is no print or electronic evidence of a service history, it could be that the vehicle missed its services. Because the manufacturers would keep a record of the services, especially in the 2021. So get the VIN number of the car, go to the manufacturer and ask them what the service history looks like. Alternatively, do a 100-point check by the OEM, by a franchise dealer on the car.
What exactly is a 100-point check?
Well, they, some of them do a 130-point check, 50-point check. I mean, a 100-point check is just checking out every part of the car to make sure there's no fault, accident damage, and they try and verify that the vehicle is not going to fall apart on you.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. Doesn't mean that they're going to pick up everything, but that it lowers your risk. Yeah. Next question.
Next question comes from Vinny, who's asking, is it advisable to buy a car that is out of a motor plan, cash? And what are the risks and advantages?
This is not Vin Diesel, is it?
No, it's not. It's just Vinny this time.
Vinny. Okay, how's it, Vinny? So buying a car out of motor plan could represent a very healthy saving.
Yeah.
So again, what I would do is, if a car's out of motor plan, is do the 100-point check. Make sure that the thing's not been in an accident. Make sure that it's been treated well. Look into its history even further, because you're not going to have the fallback of a motor plan. So that's my first piece of advice. Second piece of advice is try and consider a aftermarket motor plan. You do get those insurances, even if it's for 12 months, just to make sure that when you're driving that car, it doesn't break on you unexpectedly.
I think something else is, if you do find a car that does not have a motor plan, do some more research, because you may find that a car that's out of motor plan is being charged the same as a car
in motor plan. Good point. Yes, good point.
So you may find some deals there.
So if you do find a car that's out of motor plan and it's priced the same as a car that is still in motor plan, then negotiate. Negotiate. Definitely negotiate. It doesn't mean that a car out of motor plan is a bad car.
No.
It doesn't mean that at all. You just got to do your homework. Next question.
Next question comes from Sabang, and the last one. I'm under credit review. Can I finance a car? Very plain, simple.
Simply, Tabang, unfortunately, that doesn't bode well for you. You're not going to be necessarily eligible for vehicle finance if you're under debt review, and the only option is to clear your credit record. People, it is so important that we play by the norms that and the rules that the system has, unfortunately.
So it protects you as well.
And it protects you and everyone else. So sorry for the bad news, Tabang, but that's the reality. Clear your credit name first, and that's all we have time for, ladies and gentlemen.
It is.
It has been real, and my name's George Mienie, and as usual joined by Wandile Sishi, and now we're going to go and have a good look at these cars, right?
Maybe do a spin or two.
Yeah.